Chinese sister. Love is with your brother.
Hey guys, it's Monday, which means it's time for another video. I got a request to review the movie Orphan from 2009. It's actually been quite a while since I've watched Orphan, but this is a movie when I was younger that I watched all the time. I don't know why. For some reason, I really like killer kid movies, even though there is a plot twist in this movie, and I will be spoiling that plot twist. So if you haven't seen Orphan, stop what you're doing, go check it out. I don't know if it's available anywhere for free, but I remember I got the DVD a while back for like $5, very cheap. But this is like one of the better killer kid movies, and the thing is, I don't really hear a lot of people talk about this at all. When you hear about killer kid movies, a lot of people automatically think of Children of the Corn. Yeah, that's a very common one. But this is definitely up there with Children of the Corn. I just think it's a very well done movie. This actually stars Vera Farmiga. If you're familiar with Vera Farmiga, she was in Bates Motel as Norma Bates, and a lot of horror fans also know her as Lorraine Warren from the Conjuring movies, and she does a brilliant job in this role as well. But I'm gonna stop what I'm doing and kind of talk more about the movie itself. So this family, I'm really bad with names, so I don't remember their names, but they lost a baby, and they're kind of upset about that. And this family has 2 kids already, a son and a daughter who's actually deaf. And I think she has actually played by a deaf person, maybe? I'm not positive, but correct me if I'm wrong there. But they lost a kid, and they're very upset about that. So they decide they're gonna adopt a child in an orphanage, and it's definitely interesting that they want like a full-grown kid, and they adopt this little girl named Esther, played by Isabel Fuhrman. I don't know what she's been in recently, but I know she was in the first Hunger Games movie as Clove, but and she was in that really crappy Stephen King film adaptation of Cell. That was a really bad movie, but that's like all I remember her in after Orphan. But this little kid named Esther, she has a accent. I think it's a Russian accent, and she's like a cute kid. She seems very nice, and she's very respectful towards her family. But as the movie goes on, she gets very awkward in a way. She has like these things covering her wrist or her neck, and nobody's allowed to take it off. And at one point during when she's in school, there's a bully. She's trying to take the things off of her, and Esther kind of goes in freak out mode. And a lot of people look at her like, what the fuck is wrong with you, basically. And I know the brother, well, it's not her actual brother, but he doesn't really like her that very much. I think because of how she dresses and just how she acts, and he kind of doesn't really pay her any attention. Esther just at the moment, I just think she feels very left out in a way. Like nobody really wants to talk to her in school. She doesn't have any friends. She kind of has a freak out moment in the bathroom too. And then later on, they're at a park, and the bully's at a park, and Esther's kind of creeping around, and you know that something bad's gonna happen because there's scary music, and this bully's looking around. All of a sudden, Esther pushes her off a slide, and this kid breaks her leg, and you don't really hear anything after that, other than the fact that the little kid broke her leg because Esther pushed her. And you know that there's a tagline on the DVD and the poster, everything. It says there's something wrong with Esther, and you find out what's actually wrong with Esther, because Esther does some weird things, especially with the youngest daughter, who's, like I said, is deaf. At one point, they like are outside at a lake, like there's a little lake out back in their yard, which is frozen over. But I guess in the past, the youngest daughter, I know the youngest daughter's name is Max. She almost drowned, so the mom's very protective of Max, and when she sees that Esther has her out by the lake, she like goes in freak out mode. And I know Esther definitely doesn't really like the mom very much, and I'm pretty sure the mom doesn't like her too, and you find out like why. Like, it's just a very strange like thing between them two. Like Esther tries to get the mom in trouble by putting her arm in a vice and basically cranking it till her arm breaks, which is one of the more unsettling scenes in the movie. And it's just like the things that Esther will do just to get either attention or in trouble, or the mom in trouble. She eventually burns down the son's treehouse with him in it, so he has to jump and he ends up in the hospital. And you kind of figure that out as time goes on, like, that something's gonna happen to the son, just because the son's always mean to Esther and doesn't really pay her any attention. There's also a scene where she basically takes the e-brake down, and the car goes flying backwards with Max in the car, and it's just like, Esther basically wants these people dead, and you find out, I'm gonna be spoiling her now, so you find out like a little bit for like kind of like the last half of the movie, after the one nun at the orphanage, she goes trying to talk to the family, but Esther actually kills the nun with the help of Max, and poor Max is like this 6-year-old kid, and she's like traumatized because Esther's like hitting her with a freaking like the claw of the hammer, and it's just crazy. But you find out from another nun on the phone that Esther's not actually like a 9-year-old kid. She's, I think, a 36-year-old woman. She has a genetic disorder that makes her look younger than she actually is, which is actually a thing, because how I talked about Children of the Corn earlier. The kid who played Isaac wasn't actually a kid. He was like 27 at the time, but he had a disease that basically made him look younger than he actually is. That's basically what Esther has in this movie. I don't know if it's exactly the same thing, but that's what Esther has in this movie, and which makes sense because there's a scene before they I think it might have been after that, she basically is like trying to seduce the dad, which is like kind of disgusting because she's supposed to be a 9-year-old kid, and she's like dressing all nice, and he's like kind of drunk because the wife's in a crazy hospital right now, and basically Esther's hitting on him, but he eventually dies, and I don't know if the son dies too, because she does smother him with a pillow in the hospital later on. But there's like a standoff between Vera Farmiga's character and Esther, and Max is kind of in the middle of it too. And eventually Esther dies, and then the ending is the cops are kind of at the house, and Esther's upstairs putting on makeup and everything, and comes down, and she's like, "Hi, I'm Esther," in like a little kid voice, and you don't know like what happens afterwards. They don't show anything after that, but there were no sequels after this movie, but there is like a story that happened like almost a year ago, where this family claimed that this their daughter that they adopted wasn't actually a kid. She was like in her 30s or something. But it turned out, I think the kid was actually 16. I guess the adoption agency that they got the kid from, I don't know if they didn't, I don't know if they had like the right records or something, but they were claiming that she was like, I think 6 or something, but she wasn't 6. She did have like some sort of dwarfism, but it's kind of crazy because I remember when I read that, it kind of reminded me of this movie, but it turns out that I think the family just was making up shit, and they eventually moved to Canada and left the kid there. I like gave the kid an apartment and everything and paid for it, and this kid is basically living on her own, and she has dwarfism, so she can't reach in certain spots, and I think it's kind of like a fucked up story in a way, but like I said, it kind of reminded me of this movie, because the parents were claiming that she was like trying to kill them, and like standing and watching them sleep, and I don't really know how much of that is actually true. I don't think they really gave any updates on it either, but yeah, that's basically my review of Orphan. This is kind of, like I said, this is kind of like a longer review. I probably would be a little bit longer, but like I said, I haven't watched it in a while, but I have watched it a lot when I like first got it on DVD. But if you haven't seen Orphan and you watch this review, I'm sorry, I totally spoiled the movie for you guys, but you should really go check it out if you haven't watched it. It's a fun killer kid movie, and definitely qualifies as one of the top killer kid movies, like I said, with like Children of Corn and like Mikey's another good one. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned on Thursday for my review of Alone in the Dark from 1982. I still have to watch that. I haven't watched it before. But comment down below on this video and let me know what movie you guys want me to review, and I'll be sure to get to it as soon as possible. But in the meantime, I'll see you guys on Thursday.